Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the WellZest Podcast. I am so thrilled for today's episode. I have Deondra Carter, the creatrix of Lumina, who is a transformational coach, an intuitive guide, a spiritual guide, who has over 20 years of experience of different healing and spiritual modalities. Deondra is also a friend, so I'm excited to bring to you guys a rich conversation about all the things that you wanted to know in terms of trusting your intuition, following that inner wisdom and guidance. And Deondra is the perfect person for this conversation today. So Deondra, good to see you as always, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be here with you, Teju, and I'm excited for this podcast.
Me too. Me too. Now, I've known you for years and I just love, everything that you've done and following your journey. And I remember back in the day when you were working in real estate in New York and, just all that you've done over the past, 20 plus years. So I would love for you to share how you went from corporate to real estate to really getting into spirituality, wellness, and healing.
Yes, yeah, that is a very interesting journey. So I started off at 19, after I guess you could say a spiritual crisis of sorts, or a spiritual awakening. I started off as a massage therapist. So I went to massage therapy school when I was 19. I was also going to college at the time, but I really felt like I needed that healing, which it did help immensely, just having physical touch and, the energy exchange of massage therapy was very healing for me. So I did that for a few years, basically during college, and enjoyed it, but I had to take a little break because of my arm. My shoulder was getting a bit tired from doing, massage.
I didn't
Yes.
know that.
And so, yeah, I took a long break from that. I said, I'm going to go out and, just do some things in the world. I traveled a bit and, after a couple of years landed in New York City, where I just had all the big dreams. I'm going to do all the things and was in corporate for a bit and was like, oh, this is so boring. I need to be out in the city, like moving and shaking. And yeah, got into real estate and was just doing the most for about 8 years. I mean, it was just hustle, 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 hustle. And after 8 years, my body and soul was like, no, we have got to switch gears. This is not sustainable. we need a change. And so I kind of snuck away from New York. I didn't officially say I'm leaving. I just kind of took a sabbatical and just started healing, because I was severely burnt out, and I think having another spiritual awakening of sorts, and it was just like, I need to rest and I need to reconnect. And it's just been a really beautiful journey since leaving. That was in 2019. I left New York.
I remember this so clearly, you leaving New York, and that was such a big step for you. Was there a aha moment, that specifically stands out to you where you kind of have that almost outer body experience where you're like, this is no longer the right life. I'm in the wrong story. What was that moment for you?
I think it was like maybe one of my deals that were just, I was, it's very stressful being an agent. There's just a lot of parties that, have big egos or are just fearful or what have you. So I think I just was having a moment with maybe one of the agents that I was working with, and they were just having a meltdown, basically, just screaming and yelling and carrying on. And after the call, I always took things very calmly, and detached. But after the call, I said, this is not feeding my soul. Like, this is just so draining, and I don't want to work with people who, kind of abuse each other, are in these very strange and toxic relationships, even though they're for a short period of times per deal. But I said, I just remembered my massage days where people loved to see me. They appreciated me. They were just so thankful. And I said, I want to get back to that where I feel really good with the work I do. I mean, I always felt good serving my clients, but it was always just a lot of other stuff going on not with my clients, but with, with the lawyers or whoever, other agents. And yeah, at that point, I just said, no, this is not feeding my soul. This is not for my highest good. And I can't imagine doing this for 20 more years.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah. Good. I think it's something that's really important. A lot of times people, the nature of career, I think a lot of times people end up staying in careers and companies where there's such a toxic culture and it almost becomes normalized when it's not normal. And I think that it's a conversation that we need to have more as a society, that when something feels bad, when people are toxic and screaming, that's not healthy. That's not normal. And that's not what we should be putting up with in work environments. I think it's really important that you had that aha and you set that boundary and said, hey, this is not the vibe. It's time for me to go somewhere else where I feel good.
Mhm.
And would you say that that was your intuition speaking to you? And if so, what did that feel like? Were you already tapped into your intuition? Do you feel like at that point in your life?
Yes, I was reading tarot for myself and friends for quite some years. I just was wandering around the not East Village, the Upper East Side one day, and made my way to this, metaphysical shop, and was just
Mm,
felt so peaceful and at home there. And I just found this deck of cards that I still have till today. I think this was 10 or 15 years ago at this
mm,
point. But yeah, I just have always been drawn to these things since a child. I just, maybe there's times when I'm more in tune and less in tune, but definitely my intuition was speaking to me. Then it said we need to prepare to move on from this
right,
career and also from
right,
New York, which I thought I was going to live in New York forever.
right.
And my soul just wanted to do other things. So that was a hard thing to accept and a hard dream to let go of. But yeah, it just said, nope, this is not for us. And I got the very clear, I get just like a feeling, and sometimes I get a voice that's like, no, we need to prepare to move soon. So, and
Right.
that's what I did.
Right.
I wrote on my whiteboard, just close my deals and get out. So,
Right. Right.
mhm.
Right. Wow. Wow. Were you afraid? And two, were other people around you afraid when you decided to make that leap?
Well, I didn't tell anyone because in New York, they try to keep you there. They're not going to let you
Yes.
go. It's like a
Yes.
little
Yes.
cult.
Why would you leave the city? It's the greatest place in the world. There's no other city like it. Like, yeah, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
I've heard that
no,
before.
I did not tell a soul. I just, I was like, they're
Right.
going to try to
Right.
keep me in the cult. I have to get out.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that's why I said, oh, I'm taking a vacation to Los Angeles, but like I just packed all my things into storage. And I said maybe I'll be back, but I just said for now I need to take a break, and that just started this whole journey of just being a nomad. It was very accident. I didn't think I was going to be doing this for 5 years, just hopping around, but that's clearly what my soul wanted to do, so I'm following that.
Mm, mm. And I love how you took a micro step. I think a lot of times when we think about big life changes, people feel like they need to just do this huge overhaul when you can commit and feel things, feel through things. Like I know that's how oftentimes I do that. I'm like, okay, what's the smallest step that I can, do right now that doesn't feel incredibly daunting, but starts to move me into a direction of relief. And I think that we can think about big changes in terms, unless you're in, a horrible abusive situation where you've got to fully go, but trying on new careers, trying on new cities, doing those things in steps sometimes is a little bit more, it's more appetizing before,
Mhm.
I call say putting TNT to your entire life, as you know, which is difficult, which is so difficult. I want to
Mhm.
ask you, how would you define intuition? What does that mean? What does that word mean for you?
For me, it's an inner knowing. I've always had
Mm,
inner knowing about things, and um, I couldn't explain why I knew it. I just knew it
Right.
and I would say it and people would say, why do you know that? I was like,
Right.
I don't know.
Mm.
So it's just an inner knowing and it's often very subtle. It's often very quiet, but it's very self-assured.
Is there a feeling you mentioned kind of to the voice that says no? When you feel like you're fully aligned and tapped into that inner knowing, describe to me how that feels in different circumstances. And then, other than the no voice, what does that voice sometimes sound like, especially if it's a positive thing that you feel drawn to? What does that sound like or feel like in your body?
Mm. Well, I think that no is from if you study human design. I'm a generator, and our response and response is in my my sacral chakra. Sorry, my sacral chakra. So it's like a
Right.
trusting your gut feeling, and I get that gut feeling when something's like no, nada, not happening,
Right.
and so I just have to. It's like literally, it's just a big no. I just cannot move forward even if I tried. It's like
Right.
I just put up a wall. So there's that one. And then my intuition is just, it's really soft. It's very feminine. I would say almost like the no is quite masculine. And then the intuition, like, go here or look there, or it's quite soft and feminine.
That's so interesting that you say that, kind of the difference in terms of, kind of the masculine being very no assertive and the feminine being that's soft kind of, I would say maybe
Mhm.
almost nurturing, curious voice, not to put words in your mouth, but at least for me, I would agree. It's the same way. I'm a manifesting generator. So I do have this, I'll call it almost a bark, I would say, when something is a no. And agree, it's a whisper when something is a yes,
Mhm.
a lot of times, but I feel warm in my body when it's a yes. I know this is going to sound really weird to people, but
No, but you'll get a sensation, often you'll get some people get tingles. I'll
Exactly.
often get a tingle or I'll get, I'm just trying to think of that feeling. It's just like this very self-assured and calmness that I get.
Right, right, right. Very interesting. You know, how can someone tap more into their intuition? I think it's something that we all struggle with.
Mm.
How do you do that? Where do you even start? What are some practices?
So yeah, tapping into my intuition. I've always been a meditator. I've had a meditation practice since I was 18 or 19. So just slowing down, quieting the mind, just
Mm,
really helps. Like I said, the intuition is quiet. It's not barking. It's gentle. And so when I'm rushing around and doing all these million things and have my mind racing, I'm not going to hear it. It's just not happening. So I really try to slow down as much as possible. What else can one do? Being in nature. Um,
there's so many things that you've hit on,
mm,
and I think what's really important is also to talk about the distinction between instinct
mm,
and intuition.
mhm.
What would you say? What is the difference? And how would you categorize that in your mind?
Wow, instinct versus intuition. I would say instinct is usually kicks in when I'm like in a dire situation.
Right,
And I've
right,
been in
right.
some precarious situations. And
Mm,
it could be the same thing, but the instinct is like, um, no, don't go there. Don't do that. It's usually like a no. Again, that might be more with that sacral, generator, um, uh, human design thing that I have, but, it's more of like, just don't do that. Don't do that.
right,
Don't go
right,
there.
right,
Yeah,
right,
just don't do
right,
that.
right.
Whereas the intuition, like I said, it's more positive. It's usually always going to be positive and just like, maybe like look at this or go that way or, it's just gentle. So that's a great question.
Right, right. Very, very interesting. Do you feel like your intuition can be wrong? And how have you handled that? And if you're open to it, would love for you to share a time where you feel like your intuition was wrong.
Ooh, that's really good. Usually with the cards, they're not because I'm tapping in to, with the tarot cards, I'm tapping into my higher self. I'm tapping into their higher self, their guides, my guides, like the whole team is involved. So
Right, right.
I'm
You're calling
90,
out everyone.
yeah, come on everybody. So it's, it's definitely, I would say 99.9% accurate. I would
Hmm,
say intuition wise is perhaps like when I'm trying to read someone's intentions, because people can have multiple intentions, for things. And I do tend to positively think about people like, oh, they have such great intentions. And sometimes they
right.
do and sometimes they don't. So I would say it could be a little bit difficult to read people's intentions. And in the dating world, that comes up quite often.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where I'm like, okay, I was wrong about that person. But yeah, at other times the intuition says, no, this is, do that or don't do that or date this person or don't date this person. And it just might be a lesson that I needed to learn or something karmic that was going on. So one never knows.
Are there times that you remember where you feel like your intuition was telling you something, but you didn't follow it? So kind of the converse.
Yes, yes. That has taken me years, honestly, to just stop and listen to it and to follow it because it's about building trust with ourselves. I often like to see how things work out type of person.
Right.
I'm very
Yeah.
curious, but it's like my intuition will say, no, don't do that. It's not going to work out. But I'm like, let's see, I want to just
Right,
experiment.
right,
And so,
right.
yes, like jobs or something like that. So I,
Mm,
yeah, I definitely, and I still work on that, even though I am an intuitive reader and I help people professionally with it. But yeah, I do have to, it's a discipline to listen 100% to your intuition, even though that thing might look like it's glittering gold. If your
yes.
intuition says no or the gut says no, gotta pass.
Back off. Back off. That's what I always say.
Mhm. Back away.
You gotta back away. Now, I want to switch it up a little bit because you just have such a depth and breadth of knowledge and expertise and practices. Tell me a little bit about each of the modalities that you've been trained in and what has been the most transformative to your life.
Oh, wow. That's great. Well, I did start off with massage, and like I said, that was very, very healing for
Mm,
me. I'd gone through some trauma, and the massage and being touched again was, during massage school, you just get massages all the time, basically.
right.
So being, open to that and receiving, safe touch was very, healing. Very, very healing. And I didn't
Wow.
know that that's why I was doing it. I just was again
Right.
following my intuition, and it said go to massage school. So I was like, oh, okay. So I went to massage
Right.
school. So that was very, very healing, and it took me on such a beautiful journey. I met so many wonderful people working in different spas and environments.
Mm,
And then I got Reiki attuned. And that was just hilarious. My friend just took me to a class and was like, you need this class. And I was like, what is it? And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Because with every Reiki attunement, your life shifts drastically. And so with that
wow.
one, I got Reiki attuned, which is like you have like a 3 day training all about learning all about this energy work. And I shortly after moved to New York. So I moved from LA to New York. It's like big transition.
Right.
So that, and that also really, how do I say, increased or boosted my intuition as well. Just being able to channel, which is Reiki is just universal light. So being able to channel that and to heal myself and to work on myself for many years is a really beautiful practice, which I of course still do every day. And then,
Right.
after New York, I was very distraught. Like, what am I doing next with my life? So
Right.
again, intuition said, contact a hypnotherapist. I had never had hypnotherapy. I didn't know if it worked, but it said, let's try it. And I was like, I'm ready to try anything right now. So I found, I
Right.
was, I was back in Los Angeles and I found a really wonderful hypnotherapist and Reiki master. So I was like, I think she's my person. And I just, it was so beautiful and so magical of an experience that
Mm,
it really stuck with me. I was just floating afterwards. I just had never had an experience like that before. It's honestly kind of like a psychedelic experience, but it was just amazing what
wow.
one can experience with just our minds. And so I got, several, sessions after that and worked with different practitioners. And I said, okay, this is my intuition was leading me to doing, getting certified in that. I think that has been one of the most life changing because you're working with your
Hypnotherapy.
subconscious.
Wow.
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
is hypnotherapy? I feel like it's something that I've never done as well. I'm, very interested and I continue to hear about it. Explain to me, what is hypnotherapy? How is it different than traditional therapy? Um, what is the process? I'm going to sound so ignorant, but I'm just going to keep it a buck. Sometimes I've had this image of like, hypnotherapy is therapy combined with someone like there's all of these misconceptions I feel like that are floating around. So unpack that a little bit more for us.
Yeah, so hypnotherapy is really just a guided meditation where you get into a very deep state of subconsciousness. You're aware unless you fall asleep. Some people do fall asleep, but you're
Right.
aware of what's going on the whole time, but you're just super relaxed. You're basically in the theta state. So in that state, you can really work with your subconscious to clear out any blocks, to like
Mm,
kind of program in things that you want to achieve or accomplish, get rid of habits. We use it for smoking, we use it for pain. A lot of people use it for childbirth, things like that. And then you can also use it for, the spiritual side of things and doing past life regressions, which are crazy and fun. So it's just basically a very deep guided meditation where you are awake and aware but deeply relaxed and you can respond and you're just in this amazing, just healing. I can't even explain it. This state of being where you're just like feeling the best that you've felt in a long
wow.
time. It's very
Wow.
powerful.
Is it something that you feel like someone needs to go do multiple times in order to feel the benefits? And then also, do you need to, because getting into theta, if you don't mind explaining what that actually, that means too,
Hmm.
is something that, at least in my journey, needs to be practiced. So
Hmm.
if you're a newcomer to hypnotherapy and, not used to being in, getting into theta, it seems like it could be challenging. How do people reap the benefits if this is something completely new? And
Hmm.
how can people get into theta?
Yes, yeah. So it does help if you are a meditator and you have some
Right,
experience being in deep meditation. I don't know if you've ever been in a meditation where you're just like, oh, where did my mind go?
right, right,
Like,
right,
what?
right.
Yeah,
Yes,
you were dipping in between those different states of consciousness. And so that's what theta is. You're just in a deeper state of consciousness, but it's before you get into your sleeping state of consciousness. So you're just
right,
in that, and we are in theta usually twice a day when you're first waking up, when you're in, like, you're half asleep, but you're awake,
right,
when you're first waking up and
right.
when you're going to bed. So we are naturally in those states. It just helps if you consciously practice being in those
Mm,
states a bit more. So when I have a very, very new, client, I just take more time talking to them and getting them relaxed. And we talk in a very different way. Like, I'll prolong so I'll say long. And, and it's just, and that just, like, if
Ah,
there's certain ways that you talk that will just make
right.
someone like, oh,
Right.
calm.
Got it. How
Mhm.
interesting. Now, do you feel like hypnotherapy is something that someone should do once a week, once a month? How often, and how do you know that it should be a regular part of your practice?
Exactly. That's a great question. It really depends on the person. If they are, so I do record my sessions, so it's really good to listen because our subconscious minds are works on repetition. That's how we learn, right? We have to keep learning our ABCs and our numbers until we get
Right.
it and it's ingrained. So I record the sessions and I ask my clients to listen to it. And usually one or two sessions is fine for, say someone's experiencing imposter syndrome, like they're starting a new
Mm,
business and they just don't feel confident. Usually one time and they just can listen to that. And as long as they just can get it ingrained, they're usually good to go. Some types of ingrained habits like smoking may need two or three sessions. And it also
right.
depends on what they're, like I said, are they listening to the sessions in between? I had one lady, she had a really severe phobia to needles. So that did take about 6 sessions, but she is cured. She needed to have some procedures done and she's able to do them now. Like before she literally would
Wow.
pass out and could not have it done at all. So it did take
Wow.
6 to 7 sessions, I believe.
Wow, how interesting. And talk to me a little bit more about Reiki. So, when should someone use Reiki in their life? And as I understand, and I could be misconstruing this, but there's different types of Reiki practices. If you could walk me through and explain to me each of the different types of practices and when they're appropriate in certain situations.
Well, that's very true. So, Reiki initially is from Japan. A gentleman named, his last name was Usui. He came up with this practice. It's like really beautiful story. But now there are several different kinds of Reiki channels, and it's all
Right.
just channeling the highest and most loving light, really. And so with Reiki, that really helps to clear your chakras. It helps to clear heavy and stagnant emotions. So I get a lot of people who are like having breakups, they'll get some Reiki
Uh,
just so you can
mm-hmm.
feel that extra love and just be in a place where you're just literally surrounded in a cocoon of love. That's basically how I
Mm,
feel when I have Reiki. It also sometimes I can connect with my guides when I'm on the Reiki table. So, I mean, you can have that, uh, as often as you want, if you really
right.
are having it like a troubling time, just to help clear out the heavy emotions and bring in lighter, happier emotions. And as
Mm.
far as I don't know. I just know traditional, old school Usui Reiki.
Okay.
And that's all I know. So I know there's a lot of different ones, but they're all really beautiful. And I think, just whatever anyone chooses, I think will be helpful.
Right. Right. There's so much out there. I mean, we've already talked about Reiki and meditation and all the things. Is there anything out there that you think is like a bunch of bunk? You're like this this is really not a thing. Like, I don't understand why people are doing that. And, I feel like TikTok is a culprit for some of this. Like, are there any things that you're seeing on social media, on TikTok, that you would advise people against doing?
Oh wow. So, the thing is, it's like these spiritual practices or these types of healings are kind of like a medicine. Sometimes a medicine might work for someone and it doesn't work for
Right.
another person. So, like I tried access bars. Didn't do anything for me, but
What
maybe
is
it
what
works.
is that? Sorry, I just want to say I've never even heard of this.
Yes. It's really popular. I'm in Mexico. It's just really popular in Mexico. It's basically like touching different parts of your brain. Oh, sorry, your head, not your
Oh,
brain. Your your
okay.
skull, and it's supposed to kind of change the way you are thinking about a situation.
Oh, didn't
It
had never heard of that. That's a new one.
Yeah, there's so many things. It didn't really work for me. I didn't really experience anything different, but like I said, it's very popular. So I guess it works for some folks.
Right.
And for me, I'm just always trying different things. I mean, sometimes they work. I'm just very much into like trying out different modalities and seeing if they work or not.
Right.
I just always, recommend just definitely going with someone you feel safe with. Um,
Yes.
don't dive in too deep to anything. Like, there's a lot of trauma healing stuff going on right now, but we really need to be careful about who you choose to work with. I did have a very uh, traumatizing experience in a trauma training. so, so that was, yeah, that was rough.
Um,
That was really rough. So it's really important to pick your practitioners wisely, pick your trainers or your gurus wisely, and, be able to protect yourself and stand up for yourself if something doesn't feel right.
100%. What happened, if you don't mind sharing, or, if you don't want to share the situation, what are some lessons that you learned from it?
I definitely learned that, yeah, it was a somatic trauma training. The work is very healing. However, it was too much too soon, I guess. And I wasn't
Mm,
expecting to have such a reaction. I had a very strong emotional reaction, and then I got physically sick from getting the treatment during the training. So you definitely have to be prepared if you jump into something like that. That's what like just, especially with things like trauma, start very, very light. Like if someone comes to me for
right.
hypnotherapy for trauma, which I have done some of that since I am trauma informed, I start very, very light. Just sometimes the first session is just creating a sense of safety. Like that is
Right.
number one, is just to feel safe with the person that you're working with and to feel safe in your body. And that can take some time, just that
Mm,
alone. So yeah, it just created a really strong emotional reaction and physical illness. And
wow.
my lesson is to definitely do more research when with who I'm going to work with, because the trainer was kind of vague and, it was quite, I was
Uh,
just like some person just
mhm.
bouncing into Mexico. It
Right.
was just a very vague thing, but I was like, oh, I don't know. It was my first trauma training. I was like, I should be fine, but it's serious stuff. It really is serious stuff. And we have
Right.
to, just be gentle.
Right. And respect the process. I think that a lot of times, there's so many layers to things, and you have to give yourself grace and space to be able to process and work through each of those layers. Which
Mhm.
leads me to this morning, I was actually listening to this video randomly on YouTube, and it was someone talking about, how do you know when you're, I'm going to air quote, healed? How do you know when you're healed? And there was a bit of controversy behind the idea of continuing to work about and talk about your trauma. So one person was saying, no, the more that you talk about your trauma, the more it exists. You give energy to it. So you should not talk about it. That's actually the right way to be.
Mm.
Another person in the video was saying, no, that's false. You need to work through, and you can get to a place of healing. Would love
Mm.
your perspective on that. Do you think that it's a journey? Do you think that we should stop talking about our traumas and that's what helps us to move forward? Where do you sit on that spectrum?
Oh, that is so good, because there is a very there's
Yes.
strong opinions on both sides, right? So with somatic trauma healing, the premise is that your traumas and your emotions live in your body. So you don't have to talk about it. You're just, activating different points, and, that is going to help those things leave your body. However,
Mm,
and that can also work with like, it's EDMR. It's like a eye activation thing where you're not talking about the trauma, but you think about it and you move your eyes, and somehow that helps alleviate the reaction to it.
oh, how
So
interesting.
yeah, it's really, really interesting. You do need a lot of sessions apparently, but it's supposed to help quite well, especially with PTSD. So when you're healed, my opinion is when you're healed when you're not triggered by something anymore. If we're triggered by
Mm,
something, that is a sign that we have something that we might want to take a look at, might want to heal, or however
right.
your terminology is. And so, yeah, and on the other end, talking about it and talking about it and talking about it and staying in that victim mode is not healthy either, right? But
Right.
I
Agree.
do, right? But we do, there is a very powerful, um, it's very powerful to speak about what happened to you because there's so much shame in trauma, and then us not speaking about it and not bringing it to the surface,
Mm,
it's not going to be healed. So there definitely
exactly.
is something about sharing what happened, and that can be very healing. But I think repeating the story over and over and over again and still being triggered by it every time, that's not healing either. So if there's a way to tell the story and let its effects and let its heaviness leave you, I think that's also a valid way of healing.
So important. I think that that's important. Letting the heaviness leave you is a really important thing to focus on and feel. I think a lot of times, we don't realize how much heaviness we're carrying around. And I agree. There's things in my life where I feel like I've worked through it, and then the heaviness, the energy around it is gone. It gets to a place where it's hard to describe. It just is. Maybe is the best way you can describe it. And then that's when I know that I'm in a better place, with it. I think that's maybe the way that I would describe it. It's, okay, I'm at a better place with this experience, with
Mhm.
whatever it may be, is kind of the barometer that I've used.
Mhm.
Curious, you talked about meditation, and being a meditator. You've meditated for years and years and years. Walk me through what modalities, what types of meditation that you do. What do you think is the most powerful style of meditation? Or, I think that sometimes there's a debate. People are like, oh, I do TM, I do this, I do that. And, like one is better than the other. Do you feel like there's a superior meditation style or practice out there?
No, I just, again, it's like medicine, what works for some people just may not work for others. Our brains are
Right.
wired differently, although we're, generally, the same. Our brains are wired differently. So, I do practice TM, quite often, which is transcendental meditation. You go to the organization, you take some classes, and they give you a
Mm.
mantra, which really helps me focus my mind. So I can always come back to the mantra. When my mind starts wandering, I just come back to it. I don't know if the mantra has any meaning, but it just helps.
What's your I'm just curious. What's your mantra? Okay, like, can you share that? What is?
We're not supposed to share our
Oh, they're not supposed to
mantras.
share? Oh, now I'm curious. Now I need to do it and get my own mantra. Anyhow.
Exactly. Yes. Like we could all have the same mantras. I don't know.
Right. Oh, wouldn't that be a hoot if everyone finds out that everyone's mantra is the same? Like that would be.
Exactly. Exactly. So yeah, the mantra, there's that. And then oftentimes I just sit in silence because I've been
Right.
meditating for some time. So I can just sit in silence and I'll ask my guides like what I need to know for the day or, what's going on. So that helps. I really like chanting Om, or I'll put on a
Mm,
YouTube and it's chanting Om. I get in a very expanded state,
right.
when I
Right.
do that. And oftentimes it's just breathing, just listening to your breath or focusing on your breath. There's just so many different kinds. A lot of times I just do guided meditations. Like if I need to feel compassion, I have a metta meditation which I really love. It's like secular Buddhist, but it's a beautiful practice for self-compassion and compassion for others.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Curious, if you had to create your own wellness trend, out of all the things you've done and tried and practiced, if you had this blank slate to create your own trend or practice, what would it be? What would be, the Deondra practice of the world?
I don't know. I think it would have something to do with dance and like
Ah,
singing, or maybe it's some kind of Sufi thing. I don't, because I love dancing. I think it's very healing to when we just move our bodies and move that energy around. So yeah,
right.
maybe it has something to do with dancing and, like a meditative dance of some sort. I
I
really
love
love
that.
that stuff.
I'm here for that. I'm signing up for that. I've actually been to ecstatic dance here in LA, and at first I have to admit I was a little bit apprehensive. I was like, all right, I'm going to put on these headphones and be flailing around on the beach in Santa Monica. Like, what is, like this is some super LA stuff. But it was actually a grand time. I had a blast, and it did feel very freeing. I realized that, a lot of times when we dance, it's like, at least for me, and maybe I'm exposing myself, it's like in a club environment.
Right.
And let's face it, I'm trying to look cute. I'm trying to do the thing and look cute, And there was something about ecstatic dance where it just wasn't about that at all. It was about moving, and it was about expressing your beingness, if that's, a way to put it, as freely as possible. And you saw people interpreting the music differently. It was really, really cool. Do you do dance as a practice, in your life? And how does that manifest?
Yes, I love, love, love ecstatic dancing. It's very popular here in Mexico as well. So
Ah,
it is
okay.
so much fun to yeah, especially if you're like on the beach and you've got nature and yeah, you can just
Yes.
move your body. It's very freeing, and it's very important to be able to move your body however you want to move it. Because if you think about it, we're kind of restricted every day. Like, okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
typing on my computer and I'm, just doing this kind of robotic sometimes. So to just start to like just totally move any old kind of crazy way you want to, it feels so good. So good.
It
So
does. It really
I love
does.
that. Yeah, so static dance, and then I have my dance parties at home where I'm just, just shaking it. Sometimes you gotta twerk it, that
Yes.
helps
Yes.
release
Yes.
things.
Yes. Oh my gosh. If my neighbors like could see, they're like, this chick, is she dropping her booty at lunch? Like, what is happening? She's crazy. Cause I'm definitely like, the
What you
right
got?
song
What you
hits.
doing?
I'm like, I'm don't let a 90s throwback song hit. Like I'm
Yes, you're gonna move it. You're gonna drop it. And
moving it. Yes,
yeah, and that just is so freeing for us. Like it
it
gets
is.
rid of stress. It just brings joy and it just elevates our mood. So yes, I think dance as a healing practice or a whatever practice is very, very important.
It's so true. It's just so, and it's something we do from the time we were kids. Like I remember, seeing videos of my sister and brother when they were babies. They're just dancing, and it's just, and for whatever reason, we feel locked up as we get older and almost embarrassed. Like it becomes almost a source of embarrassment, which is so unfortunate. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
want to ask you, what do you feel like your job is as an intuitive guide, and why this work? Why? Like, what's your why?
Okay, so yes, as an intuitive guide, I've always loved going underneath the surface of things. It's in my astrological readings, or my birth chart. As a Scorpio moon, I just always want to get like deep into the depths of things. So hypnotherapy is going underneath the underneath the conscious into the subconscious, like, as well as tarot. Like we can see a situation on its surface, on its face, but tarot will give us the deeper meaning of why this is happening. What are the lessons that need to be learned in this situation? And even coaching, it's just like we might be faced with a problem, but I just like to dive deep into it. What is this? What's going on here? Let's get to
Right,
the
right,
root. I like
right,
getting to the root of things.
right, right,
Yeah, and that's
right.
my why. And of course, I love helping people, and just being in in that energetic space is really beautiful. The connection and behm connected to, the higher realms. It's a really
Right.
beautiful space to be in.
Talk to me about tarot, and how do you? I've always wondered this. Like, how do you know what deck of cards to buy, and what's the difference maybe between some of them? Which cards do you use? I have a million questions on this, so
Yes,
unpack
yeah.
it for me.
I have mine. Yeah, I've had this same deck for like I said, maybe 12 or 15 years since I walked into that, um, metaphysical store in Murray Hill in Manhattan. And
Right.
I generally don't let anyone touch this deck. So, cause it has like my energy and it's a I get very, very accurate readings because I think it doesn't have other people's energy on it. So this
Ah,
is
interesting.
a weight rider, deck, which is like just the standard type of tarot deck. And, just has really beautiful, I don't know if you can tell, artistry. It's kind of,
Yeah.
art deco-y. And this is what I've been using for years. I've had other decks and I just end up giving them away. I'm like, I
You
like
weren't
this one.
feeling it. The energy
Yeah,
was off.
yeah, it was
How
just like
interesting.
it's not I think it's just not seeped in my energy. So this
Mm.
is what I use. This is what works for me. But definitely, I do want to get a new deck soon, like just alternative. But definitely, it's just like what your intuition draws you to. You know, like when you're in a bookstore and that book just
Yep.
falls off the shelf, or you're just like, oh,
Yep.
I need to read that. So
Right.
it's kind of like that.
And what do you get out of tarot? Like, why should someone get a reading? Is there a certain time that it's better to? How often should you get a reading? Is there a certain moons? Just curious, like when should someone do it?
Yes. Well, whenever you're at a crossroads or confused about something or really need clarity, I'm always forever reading my cards, because I'm always on the move and going to different places. But yeah, just whenever you're at a crossroads, you need clarity on something or you're really stuck on something, those are good. I do, year ahead readings. So they're, 12 card spread reading. And it basically tells you about, it's an energetic reading of what may happen in the next 12 months based on your energy
Oh,
for today, about health, about love or relationships, career, money, lessons you need to learn, like all the things. And it's just really in depth. I love it. And I suggest someone get that every year or so.
I need
uh,
that. I'm gonna have to come to you.
Okay, come to me. I got you. I got
I
you.
know where to
Yes.
go.
Yes, I got you. So yeah, there's just different kinds. Like if you're, yeah, like you're at a fork in the road or, relationship stuff is coming up, business decisions. And, I always just tell people, I just read the energy. And like I said, I connect with the client's higher self, with my higher self. I surround us with love and light. I call in all kinds of guides so that it's a really accurate reading and like a loving and kind reading. Like, because
Mm.
life can be brutal and tarot can be kind of brutal sometimes.
So tell me a little bit more about your company, Lumina, what you're doing, and some of the services that you provide to people.
Lumina, it means, the light. So my mission is to help people shine their light in the world.
Mm.
However that is for them, whether it's pursuing a big dream or, answering their soul's calling. I do that through Reiki or energy work, hypnotherapy, coaching, and intuitive guidance. So, my signature, service it's called, conscious creatrix coaching. And
Ah.
it is basically you get that soul journey reading. So you get that reading for your next 12 months and it tells you about things that you might need to work on, challenges that you may face, blocks that you might need to overcome. Then we do hypnotherapy and other, practices to clear those blocks out. So, say you're starting a business and you've got imposter syndrome and you need to boost your self confidence. We can work, through hypnotherapy or EFT tapping or anything like that to help to remove the imposter syndrome and to increase the self confidence. And then I do, coaching. So that just helps you keep on track with your goals and, move through any obstacles and to have someone, help you through that.
Wow. Wow. Beautiful. And how can someone start working with you? Like, what is typically the first thing that you'll have someone do?
Yeah, so for the conscious creatrix, it's just, we'll get on a call and just I'll, find out more about the person and, just see if there's a connection. They'll get to know me and see if they would want to work with me. And so it's just an easy, introductory chat, getting to know each other, and then we go from there.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Now I want to transition to Reddit rabbit hole. Just a little context here. What we've done is we've scoured Reddit to find some of the juiciest questions related to what you do. And specifically, we've gone deep into the Reddit rabbit hole and found a ton of questions from Redditors asking about intuition. So I'm going to just choose a few of these at random, and I would love for you to answer them. So I'm going to read the first one. So this first one was posted in the Intuition Practices subreddit. And the person says, I need help differentiating my intuition with my anxiety, OCD. I have a strong feeling for a year that I thought was my intuition, that my friend was mad at me. I finally asked her, and she wasn't mad at me at all. And I felt bad even asking her because I was so off. I swore I can feel it. So now I'm confused.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to this Redditor? Because I've actually had a similar experience where, I thought my intuition was saying something, but I think it may have been fear speaking. So anyway, I digress. I would love for you to provide some perspective on this one.
Wow, that is a really great question, right? Because some people are empathic, they feel other people's feelings very strongly. So you've got to recognize what is intuition, what is empathic, feeling other people's energy versus, fear, anxiety, or what have you. Oh, wow. So I would let this person know, first of all, that maybe the friend was upset and didn't want to say anything. That is often the case, right? We have a feeling about someone, we're feeling their energy, and they go, oh, no, I'm perfectly fine. And it's, not really the case. So that's one thing. It's hard to get a confirmation from someone else, about these things if they don't want to share how they're feeling. So that's one first. Second, I think, with your intuition, like I said, when I have an intuitive hit, I feel calm and very assured. And
Wow.
your intuition is usually very, um, it's just not going to make you feel anxious and fearful. That's not your intuition. So I think that is a really big, way to distinguish. Your intuition is always helping you. It's always going to help you instead of, like I said, like stirring the pot, it's causing anxiety and fear and all this, getting riled up about things. So that I would say is a good way to listen. And I would say also to test if this person can try to strengthen their intuition by doing practices to see about that. Sorry, to like just to feel stronger and a stronger connection to their intuition. But unfortunately, with these situations where someone may not want to admit how they feel, you might not get an accurate response.
Interesting. What practices would you recommend specifically if you had to give this person 3 practices that they could use?
I would say definitely keep an intuition journal. And that is, whenever you get an intuition hit on something, write it down and then see if that actually occurs. I think that is one of the strongest practices. Honestly, you can also just start reading tarot. It's a really good way to connect with your intuition because it speaks through the cards. So, if you can start doing some readings for friends, or even if you can ask your cards, like, what should I know about this person? It may be very shocking what you might learn. Yes, but just, do it with, honesty and integrity, of course. But like, if it's a person in your life that you need to know something about, I would say that, and then just see, how they respond. It's a really good practice. And the third practice. I mean, I think those two are really strong. I don't know about a third one, but yeah, those are the ones I've used.
Yeah, amazing. I want to go to the next one. So this was also posted in the Intuition Practices subreddit. Where does the line sit between practicing and using intuition? And this person has a long explanation. I'm going to paraphrase some of it. So I've been watching this show with my husband, and it's intros and outros for commercial breaks. It will display a random main character for a few seconds. 1 character out of 9. Now, I've been trying to focus and use any feelings on which random character will show up for these intros or outros. And most of the time I'm right. I'm wrong when I don't go with my gut. I've been getting so many right that even my husband is asking how I am doing it. We both shout out our guesses. I can just totally see this playing out on the couch while they're watching this show. Like, I see this so vividly. And actually I am going to read the whole thing because there is some important context. So they continue to say, I feel like this isn't intuition because it's on something so unimportant. Perhaps my own definition of intuition means it's more serious, like a car about to run the red light, so don't press the gas as fast. I feel like if I'm practicing my intuition on this show, it will it always be considered practicing because it's such an insignificant activity? Or am I actually using built up intuition? Where does the line sit between practicing and using? I think this is so interesting.
Oh, wow. Practicing versus using. Oh, that's a great question. So, no, she is using her intuition. She's
Right.
playing a game, but there's lots of games that one can play to build up their intuition, but you're still using it, right? Like when you're practicing writing, you're still using your hand.
Right.
So you're
Right.
still using your intuition, even though it is just a game but that's the best way to start building it up and trusting it and believing it. And then you can really get, like she says, she has a feeling or a sense, then you can really fine tune that so that you're more and more accurate. Like when you really know, oh, I feel a light flutter when it's right, then whenever I feel that light flutter, that's my
Right.
intuition and I know it's going to be correct. So no, that's a great thing that she's doing. That's a wonderful practice and use of intuition.
I love that. So fun too that she's, having fun with it as well.
Yes.
One last thing in the Reddit rabbit hole, and then we're going to come out of the Reddit rabbit hole. So this one is also in the intuition practices subreddit. This one says, how do I always know when it's going to be the last time I see someone? And they continue on to say, I don't mean death. I mean, when I know the relationship is going to end somehow before I see them again. It's mostly with friends or family, but it's happened with dating too. Like I'll be hanging out with them and then we're about to leave each other. And in my head, I say, this is going to be the last time I see this person. And I'm always right. I literally feel it. It's like a movie scene. It feels slower. I can't explain it, but when we leave each other, it feels more significant than other times. What does this mean?
Mm. Well, it means that her intuition is working, it's communicating. I also feel like it's like you might have had some karmic ties with that person, and now those ties
Mm.
are dissolving, and you just are not no longer need to be in each other's lives. And that's really beautiful. And maybe it can be a bit sad
Right.
to realize that, but it's a really beautiful thing to have. And I would say definitely listen to it and use it. And again, as a practice, how do you feel? What comes up when you get this message? And write it down. Always write down your relationship with your intuition so that you can strengthen it in other areas, because it may start off in one area and then you're able to build and grow with it.
What is a karmic tie quickly? Just curious
Hmm.
on your definition of
Yes.
that.
Yeah, so karmic ties are generally you may have had a past life with a person. That often happens with like dating. You just or it can happen with our family as well, as I've learned in my past life regressions. They're just sticking with you through lifetimes,
Right. Right. I've
for
heard
good or
that.
bad, right or die.
You're right. There's
But
some
yeah,
people who are like, all right, we need to, like, this is enough.
yeah, this is last lifetime, friend.
Right.
So a karmic tie is when you've had, history, lifetimes with someone, and sometimes especially right now, we're breaking these ties. We're canceling contracts. We're saying, like peace be with you, kind of like blessing the situation, and therefore they can go in peace, and you don't have to see that person or continue that relationship again. But that's generally a karmic tie.
Interesting. Interesting. Wow, this was so helpful. Now we're going to dive into one of my favorite segments, which is what's in your bag. So Deondra, show us what you've got in your bag.
Okay, I just bought a few things today because I've been hopping around, but I have my tarot deck, which I'm never leave any trip without. And this is the Fenestra Tarot by Chitra. It's a really old deck. Like I said, I've had it for 10 or 15 years at this point, but I just love it. The artistry is really beautiful. Yeah, it's just really cool. It's got all my
Beautiful.
energy in there. So I read it, I use it for myself and for my client readings. What else? I've got all my crystal. We got a little bag of crystals.
Yay, crystals. My favorite. I'm a crystal lady.
Right?
I
Yes.
used to be one of those haters, like all these chicks in LA with all their crystals. Like, what is happening? Now I have like all the crystals too.
You got hooked with the crystals.
I got hooked. I'm telling you, my family is like, what is happening to you? Each year you're in LA, you have another crystal bracelet. Like, what is going on? You're going to have your whole arm covered.
But they're so, I love them. I
I love them
cannot.
too.
Like,
They're beautiful.
yes. So wherever I go, I'll get a little crystal. Since I'm nomadic, I can't, have my giant crystals. So I just, get something. Always have clear quartz, rose quartz,
Yes.
amethyst, and I use these for my readings and also
Right.
for Reiki. Also surround my clients with it. I also have like the darker crystals to absorb negative energy. So if I'm
Mm,
having a bad day, or
I
if my
love that part.
clients have some heavy stuff, I've got a lot of these kind of heavier ones, and I'll just put it on the client. Yeah, it just really helps absorb heavy energy. So,
I have that
and then,
too. Black
mhm,
obsidian, black onyx, all those
mhm.
things.
Yeah,
Very
they really do help. I've learned.
good.
And then I have my Palo Santo, which,
Have that too. Me too. Yep.
this was so good, just like lighting one up and just like,
Same. I do the
and,
same thing.
and then I always have some kind of essential oil. I think essential oils are amazing. They can just really help us elevate our mood, keep mosquitoes away, all kinds of things. And
Yes.
so with this one, I have Texas cedar wood. I love the smell. Lavender. I've got some tea tree, some mint,
Wow.
some lemongrass. Just it's an intuitive
Ah,
mix of things, and it just smells so good.
I can like smell it all the way from where you are in Mexico.
I'm just sending it
I love
on.
it. So
And so
beautiful.
yes, yeah, that's what I've got in my bag for today.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that with us. Now, I know we're getting close to time. I want to do a quick, rapid round of true or false. I'm just going to read a few of these. And these are based on questions that I've received, and our team has received from people. So first one, true or false, is intuition a gut feeling with no basis in reality?
Oh, false, definitely false.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Another one is intuition is always 100% accurate.
Mm. I would say it's true, but it's the way we interpret it. We often don't interpret it accurately.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I like that caveat thrown in. This one I've heard so many times. Only women are naturally intuitive. True or false?
I think that's false. I think everyone is, but we just, we have a lot of filters and layers, and men just tend to have extra layers disconnecting them from their feelings and their intuition.
True. I agree. I agree. You can train your intuition.
Hmm. Yes, yeah. Or I think you
Really
can train yourself to understand your intuition.
interesting. This one, intuition is just about feelings, not logic.
Oh, I would say false. It's going to guide you on the path that you need to go
Mm,
through. And it may not be logical to others, but in the grand scheme of things, it is logical.
wow. How about this one? This is one that I've heard so many times too. You have to be spiritually inclined to benefit from working with an intuitive guide.
No, not at all. No, I think we all have our connections. It's just whether we're listening to it or not. So, no, if you're not that spiritual, but you want to work with somebody, you can do it.
Mm. How about this? An intuitive guide must always be physically present to connect with the client's energy.
Mm-mm. No, I do almost all of my work online. Mhm.
Interesting. Do you
Yes.
have to see the person? I want to add that because I've actually learned about that too. Or can you do it with like cameras off and feel like you can still connect?
Oh yeah, I don't have to see the person. I actually will do a lot of my readings like the next day or just like they'll message me. I just need to know their name and their birth date. And I just ask, to tap into their higher self. Like I'll ask to connect to their
Wow.
higher self. And everything is energy and we're all connected.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
Mm.
Curious about this one. True or false? Intuition can help people heal old trauma.
I think that's true.
This one. An intuitive guide can't help with practical life issues.
Definitely false. We can help. We can definitely help.
Interesting. Interesting. This one. You cannot differentiate between wishful thinking and intuition.
Ooh, I think that would be false. You need to train yourself to differentiate, but there's definitely a difference.
And this
Mhm.
last one, intuitive guides focus on empowering clients, not giving direct answers.
I would say both. So I
Okay.
focus on, I'd say false. I focus on empowering, and sometimes I have to give very direct answers that I don't want to give, but that's what the card said. So,
Oh my goodness. Incredible, incredible. And speaking of what you do, tell us where we can find you online, on social media, and how could people work with you?
okay, so I am on Instagram under Love Light D. That's love.light.d for Instagram. TikTok, my handle is Lumina _111. And my website
Mm.
is Life by Lumina. That's LUMINA.com. And you can reach out to me, DM me, or send me a message, however you'd like. And I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Deondra. You're just such a, light in the world and a wealth of incredible knowledge and just so open to sharing your experiences and, how you've gotten to where you are through discipline and practice and, being open-minded to different things. And it is truly an inspiration. It's been an inspiration for me to watch your journey over the years. So I just, I thank you for sharing and teaching and empowering so many people. You do such incredible work. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Teju, and just thank you for having me. And again, you are my inspiration as well. So, yes,
Thank
keep
you.
doing what you're doing. This is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.